Hey guys, level design guy here. Wanted to show another mechanic from Lost Ark that I thought was really cool. Basically, it's where you would run up to one of these yellow circle things on the ground and you would jump from one place to another when you interact with it. And I prototyped a way of doing it. This is not necessarily the way that they do it, but it works. So let's get into it. Okay, so open up your version of Unreal, whatever version you're wanting to use. This should still work with any earlier versions than 5.0. I will be using 5.0. I'm going to select Games, and then I'm going to select Top-Down. And you can use whatever version you, or whatever you want. If you want to use first person or third person, it doesn't matter. So let's do Traversal. Ooh, I got caps lock on. Traversal underscore tutorial. Create that. Okay, once inside of the editor, let's go ahead and get a little bit of setup done. I'm going to delete these two cubes here. Just to give me a little bit more path. And I'm going to grab the floor. I'm going to hold Alt and click and drag up. Press R to switch to scaling. And I'm going to move this guy over and give us a little bridge that we want to try and jump onto. You know what, we'll put it down a little bit. And we can utilize those obstacles some more. Okay. And the other thing we're going to need is we're going to need to move the nav mesh. For those of you who didn't know, the nav mesh is actually the area that the player is able to move around on in the top-down. Usually used for AI as well. This basically is a way that we can say move to this location, and it'll find a location within the nav mesh and say, okay, that's where we can go. In order to edit the nav mesh, what we can do is we can press P, and you'll see it gets this green look to it, and everywhere that's green is basically what's being touched by the nav mesh, and that's where we can go. So with the nav mesh selected in our outliner, just search for nav and find nav mesh bounds volume. We press R. We can scale this guy up, and now we have this area selected too, so we can move across these areas as well. All right. So in our content browser, we're going to right click and we're going to say new folder. This one I'm just going to call Traversal. Inside that folder, I'm going to right click and I'm going to get a blueprint, but it's going to be in a type enumeration. And I'll explain why we're going to be using this in a second, but we're going to name it interact types enum. And so basically, this is like a type list. So we can use it to kind of switch between different types of things. In this case, we're going to be switching between a jump or maybe a pickup, right? We're not actually going to be making any pickups, but let's say that you wanted to interact with a whole bunch of different types of things, and you just wanted to be able to designate what that type is based off of the blueprint itself or the whatever. We could then set this enumerator inside that blueprint, and then whatever it's interacting with, whatever is grabbing the logic from it, can look at it and say, oh, okay, that's a jump, or that's a pickup, or whatever, right? So save that. Then we're going to make a blueprint interface. We're going to call this interact interface. I'm going to put an underscore between the two words just to keep it neat. Open that up. And, oh, sorry. Grab that. Let's name this interact. And let's get a couple of things. Trying to think of how I want to do this. Let's do the numerator first. So actually, first let's do a BP. Oh, I need to make the blueprint first. That would be helpful. So let's come up here and get a blueprint class. This time it'll be an actor, and we're going to call this BP underscore traversal. And then we go back into our interface. And now we can select BP underscore traversal. Get an object reference of it. And I'm just going to call this a jump actor. We could, if we were doing pickups as well, which like I said, we're not, but if we were, we could do another one called pickup actor. And really what we could do is save that in a struct so that we can just pull from it. You know, I might do that. Let's do that really quick. So get rid of both of those. I know I'm changing how I want to do things. Go blueprints. Let's get a structure. Do a nice tutorial on 3 different types of things that we can use while making things to kind of keep it clean and tidy. So this one we'll just call interactable. Interactables underscore struct. And inside of here, we can make some variables. We can say new variable, and we can pass through jump actor, and that will be of type BP underscore what do we call it? Traversal? Yeah. Get an object reference. And let's say we had a pickup actor, so we could say pickup actor, and that could be of type actor. And whatever, if we ever actually made a pickup blueprint, we would just slide that in there. And then we can do another new one, and this one will be our enumerator. So interactable underscore type is what we'll call that. And I'm going to say types underscore enum because we named it interact types enum. Grab that. And we can go ahead and set our, we can't set our actor defaults, but we can set our default jump or pickup. And I'm going to say jump for us. Save. And now, finally, back in our interact interface, we can select the guy and just hit plus. And then all we have to do this time is pass in the struct. And we can call it, so that was, what did we call that struct? Interactables, I think. Yeah, interactable struct. And that will house all the information that we just made in the other thing. One more function, and we're going to call this one stop interact. And that one doesn't need anything. So we'll just compile, save, close out of that, and then open our BP traversal. This guy, we're going to get a static mesh, call it start, give it a collision. So grab a box collision, call that start underscore COL for collision. Oh, really quick, let's set this to 0.1 and then let's grab a cube. I set the Z value to 0.1. So then we can grab our collision here, stretch it up, be about the size we want it to be, and that looks fine. And I'm gonna drag this out into the world just so we can see it. And it's kind of hard to see. I'm gonna go ahead and squish this a little bit though. We're gonna go 0.05 in the Z value. Yeah, that looks better. I'm gonna quickly make a material. So right click material, and I'm just gonna call this blue. I would normally make this a master material, but for sake of going fast, I'm just gonna make this really fast. So we're gonna hold 3, left click, drag this into base color, and I'm gonna select a blue that I like, and I'm gonna hold 1, get a constant. I'm gonna plug that into the metallic and the roughness. I'm gonna right click, convert that to a parameter, call it metal, and this one convert to parameter and call it, I don't know why I'm converting parameters, because we're just making a basic thing. We're not making a master material, but whatever. Actually, I kind of like that shininess on there, so we're just gonna leave it as that 0, 0. And then back in here in our BP traversal, I'm going to select our cube or start cube, and I'm going to change its material to that blue that we just made. If it'll let me. There we go. I think. No. Why are you not changing? There we go. Alright, we also need one more thing. Let's, with the start selected, let's do an arrow. And back in the viewport, grab that arrow, call it start arrow, and let's raise it up a little bit. And let's see, where's that out in the world? Okay, I don't like where that's at, so let's just rotate it until we're facing the bridge. Okay. And then I'm going to take all of this, and I'm going to say Control W, and rename everything to the end version. So this will just be called end. This one, end underscore collision, COL for short. End underscore arrow. And then last but not least, let's grab ourselves a spline. Grab the one under utility, not the spline mesh. The name is fine. We'll come in here and select all this and delete it. Alright, so we're going to need a couple of variables right off the bat. One we're going to call it is at start, and that'll just be a boolean. And then we're going to get another one and call it, I'm just going to call it interact underscore struct, because that's what it is. Come over here to the side, and we're going to search for that interactable struct. Compile and save. And now we have all this great information over here. Alright, so with those, I think that's all we're going to need. Oh, we're going to need their... No, okay, no, we're good. The enumerator's in here. I'm being crazy. Alright, so with those done, now let's select Start Collision, right-click on it, and add the Begin Overlap. Do it again, add the End, and then we're going to do the same thing with the End version. Begin Overlap, right-click, End Overlap. Okay, give them a little bit of space between them. And then we're going to pull off of Other Actor, and we're going to say does implement interface, which reminds me we need to implement it on here as well. But let's hit that drop down under interface and say interact interface. Grab it. Come up here to class settings really fast. Select it. And you'll see over here on the right, interfaces. We're going to select add and type interact interface. Okay, now this guy implements it, which is nice. We can kind of use it as a check in the character as well to see, hey, does the thing I'm overlapping it have the interface as well? And then we can press and hold B, left click, get a branch, plug that into our overlap. And then we can hold Alt, drag out, and get the is at start. And we can select true. And then we're going to want to pull off of here and say interact. And we want to do the interface. No, we want to do the message version. Interact. Where's my message version? I'm being crazy here. Can I say interact message? Why am I not getting the message? Compile really quick. That might be why. Oh, I'm being crazy here. Sorry. Pull off of here and say interact. And now we can message it because we're messaging it to this actor. I'm just crazy. That's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? All right. It's early. What time is it? 5:43. Doing another one of these really early so there's not so much noise in the house. And then we can just take all of this, copy, paste. Oh, actually, hold on. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We need that struct. And so one of the things we need to do with that struct is we need to set it. So I'm going to pull off of here. Actually, we don't need to set it, do we? Yeah, we do. Can I just split this? Cool. So here's what we need to work on. All we need to do is grab off of there and say self. So off of our jump actor input, say self, and make sure that jump is selected as our enumerator, and then we can pass it into this guy. And there we go. And grab all that, copy paste. Don't really need it a second time, this setting interact. I don't think we do. I'm trying to think now, do we actually need that? Let's get rid of it. Yeah, let's leave it. Not gonna hurt anything. Alright, on our end overlap though, we do want to say false on is at start. Okay, now we can grab all of these guys, copy, paste, and then plug everything in. Other actor, other actor. Other actor. That's probably getting annoying, so I'll stop saying it. Alright, and on both of these we'll just unselect is at start, because this is the end one, so we won't be at the start point. Okay, and that should be perfectly fine. I think that's everything we need to do in here. We'll see. Alright, so now let's go grab our our top-down character. And let's make an input. So we're gonna go to edit, project settings, scroll down, find input, go to action mappings, hit this little plus add icon, name this something like use, and then set it to the E key. The reason we're doing this is if we ever decided to change the button for using an item or interacting with an item, we could just change it here, and instead of when we type in E keyboard, let me grab this guy really fast. Instead of having these everywhere where it hard codes it to E, we would have to change this everywhere that we did that. But if we use the use event that we just created, then we could only have to change it where this is at in the inputs. Let's pull off here, type in gate, and we need to implement the interface, so click on class settings, and let's look for interact interface. Let's grab that, file save, we're gonna right click, and now we can say interact, and we want the event. Plug that in there, and then again, interact. Now we want the event stop. Interact. Plug that in there. Then so then we can for each loop with break. So basically we're going to get every actor that we are currently overlapping. So we can say overlapping. Yeah, so get overlapping actors. And we can look through all those actors and ask, does implement interface? And we can select their interface. This will be the interact interface. If it is, so get a branch. If it does implement the interface, then we're going to want to find out what that enumerator was and set everything up based off of that. So what we can do is we can pull the struct out and we can say break down here. And then off of this enumerator that we have here, we can say switch, and it'll automatically pick the type of enumerator that we passed, switch on interact types enum. If it does implement that interact interface, we want to find out what kind of interaction it is. In our case, it's a jump. So let's make a new function really fast. Hit the plus icon under functions, and let's call this set up jump. So with the jump, we're going to need a couple of things, which will get passed through by that other, what is that called? The struct, sorry. It'll get passed in from the struct. So we need to get an input called jump actor, and it'll be of type BP underscore traversal, which is our traversal blueprint. And with that, we can find out is at start. We can get that. We can get spline. Oh, that's nice. We'll get the spline length is actually what we want. So we'll get a reference to the spline and to its length, what we're actually needing. And then we can say get arrow. We want the end arrow. And we also want the start arrow. So get start arrow. Off of this, we can say get world rotation. Copy paste that node. Plug it into the start as well. I'll move this one up here. End can stay down here. Is that start can stay in the middle. I'm going to copy paste this spline length. We're going to use it twice. And then we can press and hold B, get a branch, plug it into the beginning there. Say is at start. So if it is at start, then we're going to want to do one custom event. If it's at end, we're going to do a different one. So we need to go make those custom events. So come back into the event graph, right click and say add custom event. And we're going to, and it's going to save on me rather than trying to name it. We're going to call this move from start. So this also needs a BP traversal. So we'll just call this jump actor. And then it needs the spline length, which is a float. And then we also need rotation, which is type rotator. Okay. So what we can do is we can pull off of here and we can say add timeline. Call this move from start underscore time. And I'm going to plug this in from start instead of play. Pull off of the jump actor and say get location at distance along spline. That'll be the one we want. We're going to go ahead and switch this to world space. And I'll set up this timeline really fast so that we can get our distance. Double click on the timeline to open it. Click on add float track. I'm going to name this distance. right click inside of here and say add key to float. The time will be 0. The value will also be 0. Right click again, add another float, and then the time will be 1 and the value will also be 1. We're going to set our length to 1 because I just want this to take 1 second. If you want it to be longer, just change the length and make sure to move your last keyframe to that time as well. I'm going to select both of these, right click and say auto, and then I can adjust these to have a little bit of a slower in and out process with our jump. And now let's go back to event graph, and we're going to pull off the distance and say multiply, and we're going to multiply that by our spline length. And then plug that into the distance. And then we're going to get our rotation. And we're going to pull off and say break rotator. Okay, off update, we can pull off of here and say set actor location, and we also want the rotation, so set actor location and rotation. Plug the location into new location, and then I'm going to pull off of the new rotation, and I'm going to say not break but make rotator. Pull this over here. All we really want is our X and our Z. We don't want the pitch. We don't want to be having the player land face forward or something. All right, and then we can actually just copy all of this, paste it down below. We're going to need to rename our custom event here. This one will be move from end. Also rename our timeline. This one will be move from end time. We're going to open that up, and we're going to do this in the opposite fashion. So this will be time 0 value 1, and this one will be time 1 value 0. And then this is where it really shines. So we could actually have this to where he kind of hangs in the air and then slowly drops, or however you want to do it. In this case, we can actually right click on here and say break. Select it and move this tangent exactly how we want it. Same thing here, right click and say break. And that way we can have a little bit steeper of a fall. And you can just play with that and figure out exactly how you want your curve to be and how you want it to react. So, but for time, we're just gonna kind of leave it and move on. I think everything there is good. Everything here is good. We just need to call these in our setup jump. So if it is true that we're at start, we're going to say move from start. And then we can plug in our jump actor here, our spline length here, and a rotator here. Same thing, move from end. Plug in our jump actor here, length, rotator. Compile, save. And I think, oh, we need to set this up out here. Okay. So one thing I'm going to do, and I just realized that me moving the arrow earlier kind of hurt me, but what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this 90, and then we can just come in here and select our start arrow and rotate it back to where it's facing the correct direction. That other arrow there is our end arrow, so don't worry too much about that yet. We're going to grab our end, and we're going to move it up here to wherever we want to land. And I'm actually going to land a little bit off to the side here. Okay, and then I'm going to take that end arrow and I'm going to rotate it in the direction I want to be facing when I'm coming back. Now, the fun part. Let's go back up here and make sure to reselect our self. And then we can click on the end of the spline here. And this new piece that just came off, that is our tangent, kind of like in the timeline, the tangent's in there. But so we don't want to select that just yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to drag our endpoint up here. and put it about where we want the player to end up. Right about here. I'm going to bring this down just to make sure that I'm in the center here. Yep, that'll work. And I'm going to bring it right back up. So the reason I'm kind of having it a little bit high is I want this to be where the player gets let off. And if they're let off right here, well, think about this point here as being the middle of the player. That means half the players are going to be in the ground. We don't want that. So we're going to do about that high so that half the player is not in the ground. And then same idea down here at the bottom. I'm going to drag that guy up to about half height. We have this nice player here as a reference. Okay. And this is where we can start doing our tangents, or how we want this to actually move across. So we can, when we select this, we get the option of now selecting this end piece. And if we just drag that down, you'll start to see that curve really start to come out. So we can make it a nice roller coaster of a curve, and you can just play with that and figure out exactly how you want it. You can do the same thing to the end here. You can select that and then select down here its tangent and mess with that if you want, however you want it to be. You get the idea. And I don't really want this. Sorry, make sure we get the actual correct thing. I don't really want it to be this crazy. So I'm going to try to grab my tangent here, and we're going to just kind of get it back to where we want it. There we go. Right about there. Hit save. We're going to hit play. I'm going to try this out. Oh, we're not firing off for some reason. What is going on? Go back into our top-down character. Was I not calling this? Yeah, okay. That's where the problem is. So now we need to call setup jump up here. This is off of the our use key. Whenever we hit the use interact, we open that gate. Or whenever we get the interaction sent, the gate becomes open. We enter through it, and then we set up the jump and all that, and then yay, we're into the jump part. Now we just need to pass in our jump actor into that. And I just realized something. We're not actually using our event stop interact, and that's because in here we have interact here. We don't want that. What we actually want is oh, sorry, back that up. We do want interact on the begin overlaps, but on the end overlaps we don't. So we're going to pull that interact off. We don't need any of this really. We do want this piece though, and we want to say stop interact. So we're telling that actor that has that interact interface on it, specifically that actor, that's why we're pulling off of here, that we want to stop that interaction. So I'm going to copy paste this guy up here. We're going to grab that, paste, plug in our target. Again, we don't need the struct. We do need the boolean for this one though, because remember we want to tell it once we've stopped overlapping the start collision, we want to say, hey, we're no longer overlapping the start collision. Okay. Now, try that again. On top of here, press E, and we jump up here, all nice and fun. We kind of glide down because our secondary thingy is different. There you go. Now, one little bug that I found when I was doing this is, let's say I was running along and I just spammed E while running over top of the thing. It would cause me to just run off the edge because it's still trying to get to this point over here. And that's another thing. We need to have the nav mesh cover up here. I don't think we're doing that right now. Let me check. Press P. Okay, so the nav mesh is covering it. That's good. I don't remember if I covered that, but if I didn't, you just go to World Outliner, select nav mesh, the nav mesh bounds volume, and just scale it up so that it's covering more things. So I think in the beginning it was actually set like this. We scaled it up, and now everywhere that's green is somewhere we can run. And the way I got to that was by pressing P as in Paul. That toggles this on and off of seeing where we can and can't go. Okay. Oh yeah, so let's fix that issue that I was talking about with the character. So go back into our top-down character. Let's make a new function called stop player. And that's a really quick, easy function. All we need to do is get the player controller, pull off of there, and say simple move to actor. And for the goal, we're just going to say ourselves. Basically, we're going to move to the point that that our actor is at this time. Okay, now let's go back into our event graph. And out of the complete, so once we have found that object that we're wanting to mess with, we're going to say stop. What do I call it? Stop player. Yeah. Basically, yeah, we found the thing that we're wanting to do. We set the jump, like the jump is being set up at that time, and then we're saying, hey, stop moving. So let's test that out really quick. So I'm going to click past it. I'm going to spam E while I'm running across. We should not go anywhere. Okay. Same thing over here, which is going to be a little bit harder because we have those obstacles. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit harder, but he didn't run off that way, so that's good. All right, that should cover everything. If there's anything you think I missed and you would like to see added onto this, let me know in the comments below. If there's any other Lost Ark mechanics that you would like to see, I don't care how complicated they are, we can make an entire series out of them. Please put it in the comments below. Jump in the Discord if you guys are needing any help with your projects or just want to help other people with their projects. That link will also be in the description. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.